another talk on meditation. There's me and Turtle Dove. It is my fault because I have been throwing some birdseed out on this area on the roof where I'm in the Caribbean, so I have invited trouble. So in this podcast, I'm trying not to repeat what I have mentioned in other of my talks concerning meditation. In the other podcasts, we have looked at how we can choose an object to orientate our thought, how we can choose the object to focus on something good and interesting and something which concerns qualities which are not promoted by the media. And I specifically mean the news, the radio, the news, newspapers, and what is accessible through your phone. So the object base, we focus on an object, and then we orientate our thought towards that. The meditative subject can also, it doesn't have to be an object, but it can be a teaching. I've also mentioned this in another podcast. In Buddhism, for example, they have the Eightfold Path. There are 8 precepts which are orientated to try to free you from the suffering and stress and anxiety and depression which can be caused by a relationship to the world that we live in. I use an object on my other podcast which is down there, but there are 8 points in this Eightfold Buddhist Path. So often, people have a rose bead thing, to count the 8 points off. 2, 3. You can also use just simply stones or pebbles if you're say trying to remember something, a meditative thing with 8. I have 8 marbles here. So very briefly and quickly, meditative tools we're talking about now. So I take the marbles off. Here we go. And I remember each one of the 8 ways or 8 points in this Buddhist teaching about the Eightfold Path. So with each one, I simply put one on, recall another, put one on, recall another. You see, so finally I've filled up this meditative tool, and then once I've completed, I may want to fill it off with a larger marble in the center. Here's the twin. It's simple counting. It's been going on for thousands of years. So, for example, the Chinese have the abacus, which is another counting device. So, you go 1, 2, you use it to mark, to count things off. Another way that you can do is you can simply count off, beat 2 sticks together, 1, 2, 3. Or I could ring the bell 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each time contemplating. So with meditation, we are orientating ourselves to change the way we feel and are. It often can imply, consideration and application, and in order to generate a feeling of calmness, stillness, happiness, fulfillment, peace of mind, or to develop courage, to develop, energetic resonance. Sometimes, there are various ways and means. So Buddhism has a number of systems, meditative systems, and yoga from the Hindu tradition has a number of meditative systems. So what they do in these religions, and Christianity has a number of meditative systems based on prayer. So in Christianity, they call the bead counting thing, they call it a rosary, and it's made of 59 beads. In Buddhism and Hinduism, they have the rosary is called an akshamala. Mala means the aksha is the name of the seed of a tree. Mala is the name of the rosary itself. So it's a counting system made from seeds. So each seed has a hole for it, and it's strung up literally. They call it an akshamala. And so in meditation you may find or be aware of people using a rosary bead, incense, oil lamp, a candle. All these things conduce to help to create an ambience, an environment. Now, when you meditate, you may just want to feel calm. You may just want to turn off the negative mechanisms that society feeds us. You may just want to be calm and relaxed and still and create a happy place, a happy, safe space, as they sometimes call it, a zone, which is great. So all of these things, using light, smell, sound, all help. But if you want to take it further, then I would consider Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Jainism, because all of these involve meditative practices, but they are different, they have slightly different systems, but central to all of them, they have a central common ground. So, for example, non-violence and not stealing, self-study, to be, to aware of who you are, to not be bound by the material possessions of the world, just to be truthful and honest, to not live in deceit. Now, these are found throughout all of these religions that I've mentioned to you. Every single one has these common grounds running through them. So you're not going to go far wrong if you consider one of the great religions. The problem is that if you do, you may isolate yourself following one great religion, which is okay, but please always keep an open mind to the wisdom found in other faiths. There is a saying that all paths lead to one, which is sort of true. All roads lead to one, which is kind of true in a sense. So I would encourage you to look at, in Christianity, it's all found in here, in this little book: meditative practice, contemplative practice, how to dispossess yourself from the possessiveness of the material world and to center yourself in a spiritual body, develop a spiritual light. In Buddhism, you have the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, you have the Tathagata Garbha, the Prajna Paramita wisdom, and you also have Yogacara, the yogic side of Buddhism, which includes mindfulness. And in Hinduism, you have the yoga. You might want to try any of the different yoga systems. I know I'm going too deep, but what I'm trying to say is that different religions have their own meditative program that you can become a part of. Some are more complex, some involve a higher spiritual being, higher spiritual force beyond yourself, a God, and some don't. There's something there for everybody. But for God's sake, remember that meditation and contemplation is to take one from a deluded, stressful, or addictive, or unhappy place to raise you up to a better place and a better state of being and mind. So all of these things I have, these tools, and you know, in Spanish, herramientas, but tools. I'm bilingual, and occasionally Spanish words spring to my mind. So I'm going to be quick because I realise that my podcast can go on for too long. That means it's 6 o'clock in the Caribbean islands. I'm in Santiago. The sound will come and the sound will go. With patience, tolerance, resolve, steadfastness, self-belief, and trust, that alarm will go. So, I'm going to briefly just show you how to make an oil lamp. I did bought this. It's a cowrie shell, a bronze one. It comes from India, but you get any saucer, any little cup that has to be not too high, very low. Be very low. Okay, very, very low. What you do is you get your receptacle. Anything that's just low and shallow. It can't be a cup. It be low and shallow. Something that won't break with heat, metal perhaps, or ceramic. Then what you do is you get olive oil. Virgin olive oil's the better. You put, I'm going to fill it up now. You see, you fill up with olive oil. Just olive oil from the supermarket, from the shop. Assuming that you don't have olive trees growing in your garden. And then what you need is a piece of cotton. Now, a cotton shoelace or anything you can find, you need a piece of cotton. Now, you can't have anything, any elasticine, polyester or nylon in it, not even a percentage. And the way you can tell whether it's cotton or not is that if I like this bit of cotton, okay, no drama, I'll shake it out, it will smolder. Okay? But polyester and nylon based things will not smolder. It's still smoldering, you see? But nylon and those things won't. That's when if it's pure cotton. Anything, a shoelace, but it must be pure cotton, okay? Now what you do is cotton being natural, you know, from the cotton plant, it will absorb the olive oil. Let me very quick. I'm going to soak it all in the olive oil. And I leave it there, you just leave it with a small lip over. A small lip over. Okay, I can't tilt it. And with this, I have a little round brass thing here, which I slide through it, over it. It doesn't matter how thin the cotton is, okay? Then you simply, I use this cigar lighter, they're commonly available, which has a pressure, see it has a pressure flame rather than just a normal flame. I like that. And that, as I said in another podcast, that will give me 6 hours. It will burn 5 hours like that. It's, you know, it has that light. If you want an oil lamp, it's simply how you do it. Okay. There is a breeze. So making an omelette is very simple. It doesn't smell, doesn't do anything. You may want to add a few drops of an essential oil in there if you want, a rosemary oil or a sandalwood oil or anything into your oil thing. The most important thing I can tell you is that it must be low-lying, like saucer height. It can't be too high because the oil has to be drawn up by the combustion process to the end of the wick, and if it's going up, the oil cannot be pulled up, so the oil will stay down and it will have no oil, so it cannot burn. Another thing to do is, if you are so inclined about making using a rosary, I made all of these at Cerebus Simple. Just get some beads, you know, go to any haberdashery, go to any place where they sell sewing and, you know, artisanal stuff, and you get beads. These are plastic. You get, this is actually another shoe ring. You thread them on. I've threaded them there. I've made a loop and threaded them through that loop down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I've tied a knot, so the loop's still up there, and then down there I made it. So that I've made that. And so what's that for? You say, well, what do you want that for? Well, actually, I've deliberately chosen 4 and 8, the numbers 4 and 8. So when I want to remember the Buddhist four noble truths, I can just count them off: 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if I want to remember the eightfold path, I got 8 there. So I use that to remember the 4 noble truths in the eightfold path. I have another one here which I use to remember the 12 links of dependent, basically the Buddhist wheel of life, which is composed of 12 links. So I have that. Not everyone needs to have a rosary meditation bead, meditation string. Not everyone needs to have a lamp. Not everyone needs to have a, you know, we could carry on if you want. What, a candle here. You know, you can go on and on and on, as long as you want. See the breeze. You know, you go with a wax candle, whatever you want. But all of these things do is they help to create a meditative environment. So, you know, find something and smells that you like, and even by seeing a naked flame, some of us will be able to connect that inner part of ourselves and relate to fire, the primitive nature of fire and flame. And each of these things is turning off the conditioning of modern society. It's turning off the enslavement to the rat race, the system, the program system, which separates from the basic simple things in life. But meditation doesn't involve, you know, watching a movie and listening to the news and engaging in all sorts of subject matter that is unspiritual, which doesn't lead to a better place for us in mentally and physically. So we're connecting to simple things, you know, sound, a running river, the noise of leaves fluttering in there. The more you're able to generate, you know, a meditative process, the stronger you'll become in this meditative. And if you can allocate a certain a few hours or an hour every day or every week or every month, every time you do, you'll be readjusting and recalibrating your mind. You'll be and a process. So the last thing I'll say is that some people think meditation is like a eureka, an instant moment. It very rarely is an individual moment when you suddenly do something and you suddenly feel very different mentally and physically. It is a process. You need to process. If you can build some kind of meditation in your life, if you can, repeat your meditative practice, i.e. you're creating your environment, considering good things, you're only going to nurture and grow. And let me just say, I've been trying to do that all podcast to free myself up here. You're only going to strengthen and empower yourself to avoid things like addiction, to avoid anxiety, to avoid stress, because I can't focus enough is that we're orientated towards good things, truthful things, happy things. Thank you for your time. I appreciated that, and we've cut through quite a few little small subjects. I have more on meditation, and I hope you will find the time to listen to what I have to say. Thank you.